Alright, so we're going to be creating a pivot table within Excel. And the first thing we want to do is to really consider the purpose of a pivot table. So the pivot table is used to summarize, analyze, explore, and present the summarized data. Alright, so the pivot table is a very useful tool if you want to summarize and present that data in the form of the summary. Alright, so the first step we take to creating a pivot table is step number 1. We have to highlight the data that we want to use to create a pivot table. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my data. Alright, so I need all my row labels, all the column labels as well. My sum of sales, which are the names of each individuals, and I need each individual, and I need the month and the grand total. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. Then I'm going to click insert. It may not be in this location. If it's right at the top of my screen here, insert may not be in this location depending on the version of Excel that you're using or the platform. However, you just need to find the insert, then you look for pivot table, which again may not be in this specific location. However, for the version I'm using, it's right at the top left hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and click pivot table. As soon as I click pivot table, there are going to be 3 options: table range, external data source, and data model. Table range is asking me if I want to create the pivot table using the range I just selected. So this will be the one that I will choose. From external data is asking me, do you want to use data outside of Excel to create this pivot table? And from data model is actually asking if I want to create the pivot table using data that I already have within this particular workbook. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead. Separate and apart from what I just selected. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and select from table or range. So this is the table or the range I just selected. Next step, as you can see, they have shown us now that our table range, or what will be used to create the table, is highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I want it as is. And then I'm going to select existing worksheet for my location. Choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. I'm going to choose a new worksheet. I could choose to keep it here, but I'm going to choose, place it in an existing worksheet, which means that I would have to search for that particular worksheet. However, I'm just going to create a new worksheet within this particular file. Alright, at the bottom you'll see choose whether you want to analyze multiple tables. So you're going to select add this data to the data model if that is your choice. If it's that you're adding this particular table to an existing table to do a pivot table on everything or analyze all of that information, you can select that option. However, we don't want to do that. Alright, we're just starting a new one. So we're going to click OK. When you click OK, as you can see, my previous sheet was named pivot table. They have given me sheet 11, which is a new sheet. Alright, so my options, as you can see, to the right of your table, the right of your spreadsheet, you're going to see your fields. Your pivot fields include your label rows, the months, the name of the 3 months, and also the grand total. So your fields are all the fields that you had previously selected for your labels at the top there. Then you're going to have at the bottom your fields or areas. The 4 areas for the pivot table include filters, columns, rows, and values. Alright, the filters work just as how you would use the filter option. You take out data that you're not interested in to leave the data that you really want to see. The columns, it presents the data in the form of columns. Rows presents the data in the form of rows. And values allows you to allow the data, analyze the data using various functions. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and click on row labels, and I'm going to drag my row labels down to columns to see what happens. And as you can see, all my row labels for Weeks, Teresa, Charles, Jordan, Michael, all of those are now presented in the form of columns. So each person's name is occupying a different column. The grand total is not from the table. Alright, the grand total was presented within the pivot table. So even though it's not a part of your row labels, you will see it because the pivot table will present that as an option so you can see your grand total if you're adding anything. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change the layout. I'm going to put that on the rows. As you can see, my row labels have now changed to the form of rows. Even though they are the same, each person is now occupying a particular row. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to try it out for filter. Let's see what happens when we try to filter the information. By the way, you can only select one of these at a time. I can't put it in column and row form for the same one at a time. And I won't be able to do it for filter. So even if I drag it up here, from up here, add to rows, it's still going to just occupy one area. Alright, so here I want to choose a filter. I'm going to filter my data by the person Albert. I'm going to select only Albert. And as you can see, the data presented will only give me values for Albert. Alright, I'm going to now summarize Albert's data. So this is saying that there's one person within the data whose name is Albert. Alright, so while I can have filters, a filter, put it in filter form or column form or row form, I can only choose one of those. But that I can also summarize or analyze the value while I have it in either of these forms. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to choose another one to see what happens. So I'm going to choose the month of January, and I want that in row form, and then I'm going to go ahead and have them calculate. Alright, and as you can see, they give me the sum of values. Excel automatically selected count when I chose row labels because those are words. So it's just going to give me a count of the words. However, these are values or numbers, so I got the sum of those numbers. Alright, I can put it in column form and I'll get all my values for January in column form. I can add row labels again to columns. I can get my row labels. As you can see, they have given me specifically Kathleen. That has not changed. Alright, if I unselect, everybody's name will present itself. My row labels are there and also my values for the month of January. The last thing I want to show you is the differ layout option. If I click on it, the differ layout function basically keeps everything fixed until I want to update it. Alright, so if it's unselected, if I drag January to filter, it immediately gives me a filter for January. However, if I say defer layout update and I drag January back to row, as you can see, my table doesn't change. Unless I click update, you see that it changes. Alright, so if you want to just move around a bit, see what you want to fill out, however you don't want to change what your table looks like, you can select that option. Alright, so far that's all I think you need to know at this point about the pivot table, the basic. If you want to fool around, mess around with it and kind of practice on it, you will figure out a lot more useful information. You'll find a lot more useful information. But thank you for listening. Bye bye.